All right, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today, meet Amanda Riley, your go-to gal for all things admin. Amanda Riley is the systems specialist and founder of On the Ball Administrative Consulting, where she helps business owners ditch the overwhelm and get their operations running like a well-oiled machine. With over 14 years of administrative experience, Amanda turned her love for spreadsheets, documenting processes, and getting businesses organized into a thriving OBM business. She's the behind the scenes powerhouse who takes all those nitty gritty admin tasks off your plate so you can focus on growing your business instead of drowning in the details. Whether you're implementing systems, documenting workflows, or finally getting your business out of your head and into a scalable structure, Amanda and her team can make it happen. Amanda believes that systems bring freedom, and she's on a mission to help entrepreneurs stop spinning their wheels and start running their businesses with ease. So with that, welcome to the show, Amanda Riley. All right, Amanda, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, for sure.
Yeah, so we met at a B&I event, I believe, right?
That's right.
Amanda stood up going around the round table and she pitched what she did. And I thought, I could probably use her services. I should have her on the show. We should talk. We should get to know each other better. She's loads of fun. One of the things that I love about her is that she understands that business, real business, is about having fun and serving others. And that's cool. So Amanda, before we get going on the bulk of the episode here, I have some questions. Are you a coffee or tea person?
Definitely coffee.
Definitely coffee. No tea at all? Like, is it like you're like completely anti-tea?
I mean, I was born and raised in Central Kentucky, so sweet tea's it's gonna be in the diet, but definitely coffee in the morning.
Nice. Okay. Do it yourself projects or just buy it finished?
I want to be a do-it-yourself, but I just, I'm at a point in my life where I'm just going to buy it finished.
I'm with you. I got a $200 camping stove. Like we saw a YouTube thing with my son, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a father-son bonding experience. And really, all it was is I taught him how to cuss. That's what that was.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, now we are for those that aren't in the show with us today. It's actually pretty cold here in Georgetown, Kentucky. Are you a winter or a summer person?
Summer. Actually, let me just be clear, spring or fall, really, because I don't want it to be too hot and the snow is too much. So just don't make me choose either of those.
I'm with you. I'm a fall guy. So my birthday is January 1st, and which means that all of my friends' parents couldn't drive them to my birthday party.
Yeah.
So I just celebrated. I chose to have my birthday in October, and we'd have a big bonfire. Bonfires in Kentucky is where it's at.
I've heard of half birthdays, but that's like 3/4 birthday.
But I got to have a huge bonfire, right? And we had a flaming arrow one year, and anyway, much excitement in high school. Okay, now we're going to move to some more controversial topics. Do you consider golf to be a sport?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm making enemies right now. That's good. Good for you. Golf clap. Golf clap. All right, and the most controversial of all, does pineapple belong on a pizza?
Absolutely. That is a definitive answer from me.
Awesome. Just so you know, that is the correct answer, despite what my youngest daughter says.
And I agree.
Cool. Okay. Now, one more thing before we jump into your story. On the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, we like to talk leadership. So this is a law of leadership from John Maxwell. We'll call it the law of buy-in. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about all the clients that I serve and how I lead them well, but also the experiences I've had before I started my own business. And you get that impression from the leader, that first impression, and then it's really easy to follow kind of what their vision is, what the vision is for the company. But if you have a terrible leader, it's very hard to follow along in their footsteps, to follow really any direction. So I definitely think buy-in, it comes leader first. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I've found that even a misstep by the leader, you can do all these things that like build your reputation, but you show up massively late for a meeting, or you choose somebody out, or you just do something irresponsible, or you talk bad about somebody. and it can really destroy all of the momentum that you've built.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about you. Enough about us. Now let's talk about you. Um, you have 14 years of admin experience. And let me just take a moment before I let you go there. I hired two folks when I was at Lockheed. One of them was Becky, and one of them was Mike. And I could not have done my job. I had 41 direct reports, and we were doing all sorts of different types of engineering and software and production and supply chain. There's no way I could have done my work without the wonderful Miss Becky, who, and then Mike. What I did is on a Monday morning, I would be in charge of them. I told them, I'm your boss for 1 hour on Monday morning, and we're going to set the priorities for the week. And then they literally would just like walk into a meeting and like yank my shirt and be like, you got to be over here. And
Awesome.
they would tell me what documents I was doing, or they would make, anyway, could not have lived my life without my admins. They definitely made run the show. But for you, 14 years in admin, I assume that's at like corporate America or a larger business. Where did you start?
I actually started out in state government. I made the jump from like graduating college, working in retail banking, and then just started applying for state government jobs because,
Yeah.
I don't know, long story short, I had a friend that worked there, right? Good benefits.
Yeah.
And over time, just developed a certain skill set around administration. And I did not realize, it probably took me 7 or 8 years to realize that not everybody loves admin. And I really find a lot of joy in it. And so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to believe that other people don't like it. I still sometimes am like, what do you mean you don't want to work on spreadsheets all day? Like, isn't it a blast? And so I started out in state government, moved to nonprofit world, back to state government. And then after I left the second time, I worked for a few small businesses and essentially just left every job better than I found it. That's kind of one of my mottos in life, just leave it better than you found it. And every director, boss, whatever it was, just became their right hand. They could depend on me. What you were describing with the admins you've worked with before, I have a high level of respect for kind of like what I used to be, that like low level admin, but then they become this person that is holding the organizational history, right? You can depend on them. Many
Yes.
times, especially in state government, people come and go, but that admin, they're there, they're dependable. They know exactly where you need to be and who needs to be in that room. So just working with small businesses, then when after made that jump, I realized that no small business owner, well, I can't say no because I am one, but many small business owners get into the field and they don't want to do that admin work. They don't want to do the back end office work. They got into their job to start their business, to do what they love. And so I come alongside them and do what I love. That's how I started the business.
I mean, yeah, for those that haven't made the jump to hiring, in my case, a Mike or a Becky, or definitely Amanda here, I want to pull a thread of something that you said in there. Knowing who needs to be in the room, knowing how the system works. I think, we watch shows like movies or TV shows, and the admin is kind of like given token credit, or like they're like, oh, that's just the admin. No. Becky, I mean, I got to look good because Mike or Becky had prepped me for the meeting, had prepped my notes. And Becky actually, she actually was not a stenographer, but she like did shorthand, and she could like transcribe notes as good as an AI note taker these days. It was amazing. And so she got to know the program. She wasn't a technical wizard because it was engineering. But she knew the program almost better than I did. And man, just such an invaluable asset.
Absolutely.
So you work with, you have your own shingle. Now you have a team. You're working with clients. So here I am. I'm a small business owner. I got probably 5 to 10 employees, and I'm like, hey, I think I need some help here. How do I start talking to you?
Yeah, so I offer a free streamlining session call where we get together and I ask a lot of questions. I'm very good at that. In fact, when I was a child, I was definitely that kid that asked why incessantly, right? Still doing that today. And basically just get in the conversation with you and start asking the right kinds of questions, kind of prodding further and further to critically think and problem solve about what will work in your business. Every business is different. I've had a lot of people ask me, what system do I use to talk about systems with business owners? And I'm like, funny, you should ask, because I can be on the ball for you, but not for me. But I think it would be pretty hard to apply a system to every single business owner I talk to, because There can be a systematic way of looking at it, but the pieces and parts are always different, and the problems that they're facing every day are always different. And so you have to come to it with a critical lens. We have that conversation, I make recommendations, and then you can decide to work with on the ball, or I pride myself in giving you recommendations you can implement that same day. A lot of times what I run into is the entrepreneurs don't have the time to implement that, or it's not their skill set. Like I mentioned before, the entrepreneur gets into their business because that's what they want to do. Plumber, electrician, house painter, that's what they're good at. They enjoy that. They left their previous job because they knew they could run the business. What they didn't know is that they would have to be an entrepreneur, a technician, and a manager in their business. Taking that out of E-Myth from Stephen Covey. That's not the right title, I don't think, the right author. But the book is E-Myth. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry about that. Mixed him up. But just taking that out of that book, it's a really great concept to kind of think of what business owners do. And On the Ball comes in and kind of serves as that managing part of the business, because usually the entrepreneurs I work with have, like you said, about 5 to 10 business or 5 to 10 staff people. And those people act as the technician. They can really depend on them. Like you were saying, Becky may not have the technical expertise, but she knew how to manage the rest of the business going on around you. And so On the Ball serves as that very specific role.
That's awesome. So for those that are watching, I just dropped a comment with the Calendly link to connect with Amanda. So if you're saying, I don't know if I need this, but maybe I do know I need something, connect with Amanda. You're going to get free tips right off the bat. It's probably a 30 to 45 minute conversation. Mm-hmm. Best 30 to 45 minutes you're going to spend all week, I guarantee you. To get some advice. So we talked about E-Myth. I'm a big reader. I read E-Myth probably a decade ago, and I probably read it again once or twice. It's so true. The entrepreneur has an entrepreneurial seizure where they're like, I think I can be a baker. And they don't realize that being a bakery is sales, it's logistics, it's supply chain. It's not baking pies. That's just one piece of the puzzle. Yes. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. What it means is you should look at your skill, and then you should find somebody like Amanda or train somebody in your team if that's what you want to do, to build them up. Yeah. I actually, I used to say that I'm multitasking right now. I'm going to make you wait while I try to figure out how to solve this. Right? In other words, I the boss, was the bottleneck because everything had to run through me. And it wasn't until I was able to turn that over to Mike and Becky that the team really started working super smoothly.
Yes, that is something that I actually I've experienced, in my career before I launched my business, and even I actually launched my business about 6 years before I went full time into On the Ball. So I always kind of had a job as well. I can't even say on the side. I was running On the Ball on the side, really. But I often see that entrepreneur, the business owner, whatever their title is, being that bottleneck. And the clients that I work with are ready to stop being that bottleneck. They're ready to delegate. They're ready to trust the person that comes alongside them, whether it's On the Ball or hiring an operations manager or what have you, because they finally kind of see that. And I think that there's a sweet spot that On the Ball works with. That 5 to 10 employee count is basically right before they start thinking about hiring someone full-time to really hold the business with them on the back end. And so when you start to get a little larger, there's not really an opportunity for kind of like a fractional role of someone handling that manager side of the entrepreneur world.
Yeah, and I think the way that most people handle that before they decide to get somebody like you is they essentially work 80 and 90-hour weeks. And they're not making any progress. And they're sitting there and they're looking forward and they're like, how many more years do I have to do this before I can exit? And the answer is a lot if you're going to keep doing it that way.
I mean, Drew, were you in my email inbox this morning? Like, I just onboarded a client last week, and she emailed me yesterday, and it was like 7 a.m. in the morning, right? And the email is very just kind of frantic. I'll use her words. She said, I'm so sorry. I released my Chihuahua energy instead of my CEO energy. And she shared with me, I'm working 8 hours a week. I don't know when it ends. And it's like, borrow my confidence. I'm here to help you. That's why you brought me on. It's only been a week. Let's get together. Let's talk about what the first priority is so that we can get some of this off of your plate, And I mean, absolutely my target client. It's what I see all the time. Normally when I come in, the entrepreneur is definitely working way too much and seeing very little in return. They love their business, but it's just gotten way past the point of overwhelming at that point.
Yeah, no, I see it as well. In fact, all of my clients, I recommended them basically in this order. It doesn't always happen this way, but so often that it's almost a rule. So I come in and I say, let me see your standard operating procedures. They got no standard operating procedures, which I love that you like to write those. Like,
I love it.
Real quick, out of character here. Listen, if you need standard operating procedures and you can't force yourself to sit down and write them because the idea of writing it is exhausting, Amanda will do that for you. Give Amanda a call. She loves doing it and she does an amazing job. Okay. So the first thing I say is, let me see your standard operating procedures. And of course, they almost never have any, or there's some version of this. Take it from A and then take care of it, and then you're done. And you're like, that's not enough detail. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, and then email me. So like now you're using your email and some search folders to manage the document flow in your company. Okay, so the first thing I ask is, let me see your standard operating procedures. And the second thing I tell them is, you need an admin. And they're like, no, I need a sales guy. No, I need another technician. I'm like, no, you need an admin and you need to hire a full-time one. And they're like, 40, I can't even think of 5 hours. I mean, what are they going to do? Schedule some appointments for me? I have Calendly. I'm like, no. The admin is going to do so much more than that. They will schedule, but they will help you think through the order of the day. And then you'll be spending your time, I always say you have to spend time on your business, not in your business. And the admin is 100% the key to getting out of your business so you can start working on it.
Yeah. I had a little, I don't know, kind of a massaging that I was doing last year about really, I hear that all the time. Get out of your business, get in, you're working in your business, you should be working on your business. And I struggled with, but I do want to work with people who love working in their business, but it's the mindset shift that needs to happen when you're truly ready to get out of the business. The 80 hours a week is what it is. I want my entrepreneurs, I want my small business owners to be able to do the thing that they want to do. In fact, one of my questions in that first kind of discovery, the onboarding, that very first part is like, what do you want to be doing in this business? Because if you're enjoying some admin task, I don't want to take it from you. Like, that's giving you life and joy and freedom, but it's not scalable if you keep it all on your plate. And that's what I really, truly come in and talk about. I think it's fascinating that you tell people to hire an admin full time. I mean, obviously it makes sense to me. Please hire all the admins. But I run into a lot of times, definitely, like, I can't afford paying someone 40 hours a week. What are they even going to be doing? I think you might be bumping up against something that I've, again, kind of struggled with in the messaging. When I first really launched On the Ball at the end of 2022 as like a full-time, I'm really doing this, I knew and still know people really truly understand what a virtual assistant is. And they're like, oh, I'm going to hire a VA and I'm going to pay them $15 an hour and they're going to take off my tasks and I'm going to not have to worry about these teeny tiny things. But the difference between a virtual assistant and an online business manager, which is what On the Ball offers, is truly that strategic mindset about scalability. So you're not just going to hand me your social media or your scheduling or I can't remember the other things that you said, just like all kind of the random admin tasks that make a business run. I'm also going to be implementing those things, and my team's going to be implementing those things with an eye to the future so that your business can grow in a way that you don't have to manage it all the time anymore. We don't have to email you for approval for every single social media post because you can trust us to hold the back end of the business alongside you. And I think, I just think it's fascinating to hire a full-time admin. I'm like, man, I feel like I could use that in my sales pitch,
No, right. Because if you get a fractional admin like yourself that can put together a team of folks that are, for instance, that love doing SOPs, that love managing your spreadsheets. Because if you go overseas, there are some really amazing virtual assistants. I'm not picking on them, but when you get a virtual assistant, you have to do a huge lift of SOPs, and then you can only really feed them the stuff that the virtual assistants are kind of like AI way before we have AI. Like you can get them to do some amazing work, but you also have to put in a lot of work to get there. Whereas getting someone like you who has that mind for how businesses run. Um, the other thing that I think probably you bring to the table is I can hire a virtual assistant, which is going to be an MBA student out of the Philippines or India or something like that. And
Right.
they've done one business and they do small tasks for that business. Whereas when they get with you, you're essentially running the operations of multiple businesses. So you have all these cycles of learning about how businesses run. Um,
Yes.
and you're going to be bringing that expertise to the table. What,
Yeah. And I'm also not, oh, sorry.
no, go
I
for
was
it.
gonna
Go
say
for it.
I'm not shy about. I try to be honest when people come to me. Like, this is the business. Have you ever worked with that? And I'm like, not yet, but I'm not. I'm not shy about it. I'm not shy about the challenge. A lot of businesses I have found they need, 3 things to run a business well, and it may look different across, a local boutique or a painting business or a bank. I'm sitting in a bank right now. However, if you don't have those kind of 3 key pieces, then it's really hard to run your business in a sustainable, scalable way. And so I do have, what did you say? Circles of experience, layers of experience, but
Cycles of experience. Yeah,
cycles. Yeah. Ooh, I really like that better. I would need to write it down. The cycles of experience of, hey, I've never worked with this local boutique style of business before, but it's very similar to this other business I worked with. And so kind of recognizing that pattern is part of the strategic thought partnership that On the Ball offers, and being able to apply the cycles of learning, right? Because a
Mm-hmm.
VA might be maybe having cycles of learning, but they're not necessarily bringing that to the table in a strategic way.
Yeah. Clayton Christensen, he wrote a book called The Innovator's Dilemma. One of the things he talks about is there's 2 types of thinking. There is repetitive thinking, which is what your virtual assistants do. So they're going to execute a task over and over for you. And it's great. It's great. But there's the ability to develop new ways of thinking. So um, he says it's a process for making new processes. And that's the strategic partnership. You can take a problem and figure out the solution versus taking a solution and executing it. That's a very big difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, cool. So tell me your favorite story, and then just a teaser for the folks. The show's gone on for about 20 minutes here. Stay tuned because we're going to talk about the top 3 things you need to do as a small business to get out of your business and start running a well-oiled business. But first, tell me your favorite story. What have you been able to do for some clients?
One of my favorite stories is working with a painting company. The painter was actually, by the time I started working with him, he was not doing the painting. He has a pretty cool story where he just needed to start a business and he watched some YouTube videos. And I think he told me he took like $75 from some friends to paint a laundry room, and it took him like 8 hours. And he's like, so that was my first job. And but by the time I came on board, he had 2 different painting teams, and he was taking calls, text messages, direct Facebook DMs, kind of like calls, meaning interested customers from all angles. And he was totally overwhelmed. And every time, the very first thing I noticed, the very first question was, when someone contacts you, what are you asking them? And he starts like listing off these. And I said, you need a form. Like I don't understand. Like, it didn't even compute for me that he was spending all this time. What's your name? What's your address? What do you need done? What colors do you want? Like, when are you available? All of these very systematic questions. And of course, he had a pattern that he would follow, and maybe he was copying and pasting. But at the time, I think it was 2022. And I'm like, it's 2022. Like, everybody's used to an online form. And if they argue with you about it, because he was really worried about, saying, hey, and then sending a link to a form, like, what if I lose customers? And I was like, you might lose some customers, but what you're going to get is time back in your day so that you can stop feeling so overwhelmed and letting things fall through the cracks. Because, of course, if he's got multiple irons in the fire, he can't keep one warm or hot, or however that phrase goes. But he estimated by the end of implementing the form and working through the problems of, like, what if someone's upset about it? Well, they can just call and we'll fill out the form for them, through working through all those issues. He estimated that I was saving him like 15 to 20 hours a week. That's one of my very first kind of like rock star stories out of On the Ball, because I don't think I realized how much time he was spending on form taking, basically, and there were obviously some other things that I helped him with as far as systematically filling out the schedule, or so there's just other things that made him save the time.
Yeah. So what I want to just highlight there for you, and because you said it, but I just want to highlight it for for the audience here. 15 hours a week. What does your world look like if you have 15 hours a week? That is almost half a week back, right? That is soccer practices you get to go to. That is dinner with your spouse. That is this mystical thing called a date with your spouse, right? As entrepreneurs, I had a mentor. He said, entrepreneurs are the only people that'll work 80 hours a week to make sure they don't have to work 40 hours a week.
Yes.
15 hours a week. And the other thing I want to point out is he didn't pay you 15 hours extra a week. You systematized. So it's like a magic trick. Like it's like, oh, look, where'd the ring go? You just did some magic for him, and magically he had 15 hours a week, and that's 52 weeks a year, right?
Yeah, it compounds upon itself. It's exponential because we save it once, but then it continues saving. Because of course we try not to fall back on the same patterns that we got stuck in before. So
this is exactly why I say you need to get one of your first hires. Like, I think you're doing work as the entrepreneur, you're doing work. Second guy is basically repeating your work, or maybe a sales guy, but pretty soon your schedule gets full because you're taking calls and you're filling out forms like on like your notepad or your old, I call this the Palm Pilot. Like you're like taking a note on a job site on the Palm Pilot. No, an admin is easily your third hire because they will give you 15 hours a week, which is more painting you can do. If you need to see it in terms of money, that's more money you can make. Or if you're a more impact value driven entrepreneur that you're in here to serve people, that's more people you can serve. That's why you need an admin. Okay, I'm gonna done that.
Yeah.
Let's switch over. Tell me the three big barriers to getting on the ball. What are the three big barriers that folks focus on, or the common barriers you run into that get people on the ball?
Yeah. So normally when I start working with an entrepreneur, we talked about before that it starts with a conversation, right? And we start problem solving and critically thinking. But I have found that every business needs three things that get their operations running like a well-oiled machine. Sometimes it's software like that leads to these things. Sometimes it's simple systems, but the three main categories are client management, task management, and team management. And so if those three things are messy, it's really hard to run your business in a sustainable and scalable way.
Yeah, I'm putting this in the comments here. Client management, team management, and what?
Task management.
And task management. So, I mean, like even in corporate America, which is my background, client management, there's an entire sales department for that, right? Team management, there are literally HR departments for that.
Right.
And task management, if you're in the production world, those are called work orders. And if you're in the engineering world, those are called backlogs, right? But big businesses don't just do those things because they want to spend money. That is literally is the requirement if you want to go beyond just yourself. If you want to scale on any level, you have to manage client management, team management, and task management. I love it.
Yes. Yep.
All right, that's going in the comments here. What is your favorite software? I mean, I realize every company is different, but what is your favorite software for task management?
Honestly, I've been using Notion lately, and I'm impressed with it so far. I would have to say that's my favorite one. I think the top contenders would be Trello or possibly like Monday.com. That gets into CRM, but those are my top three for sure.
Yes. Hint, she didn't say Microsoft Project. Good answer.
I also didn't say Google Tasks, and I love Google. So
that's hilarious. No, that's I haven't actually got to use Monday, but definitely Trello is amazing. Actually, for the price of Trello, which is like $15 a month or something ridiculously low, I came on as an operations manager for a MSP for about 6 months, and they had major skeletons in the closet. I'm not picking on them. I'm not saying that they were a bad company. All companies have skeletons in the closet. If you don't have a mechanism to find those skeletons and then solve those problems, we sat down and we made a list of 37 things that like could lose us a customer if certain circumstances worked out. Again, I'm not saying that they were not doing their job. I'm just saying these were risks. And so we put them on a Trello board that was just for risks. and we burned them down. And at the end of 3 months, we were down to 2. So yeah, Trello is absolutely amazing. It gets all the skeletons, all the things that you're forgetting about, and it gives you a spot to stick them so you can start working them.
Yeah, I actually, even within my own business, trying to help, not trying to, helping business owners. I work with a business coach, and this local boutique I keep mentioning, I've never worked with a retail store or a business owner who has like a brick and mortar. So they were kind of my first client. That's not true. I normally work with the online side of things, but in this particular case, the client wants me to help with their brick and mortar. That's how I should say it. But I struggled to see how she would need task management software. Like, what do you mean, And my business coach said back to me, like, things I already know, but she's like, how is that business owner going to scale if everything's in her head? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're not wrong. Like, I couldn't even in trying to help her, and I was focused on other things that she's telling me are the problem, right? I'm like, wait a minute, let's go back to basics and look at these 3 things that I know every business owner needs to scale. So it's hard to keep it top of mind, even when you're the expert,
So yeah, in coaching, we have this phrase called you can't see the label when you're inside the bottle. So like all of us need that external input. So while you do admin work and while you do the systemization for organizations, you also serve as a coach, right? Like your strategic, when you say I'm helping them with strategic planning, you're helping them, you're coaching them on how to run their business more fluidly, like a well-oiled machine. Yeah. And what I tell people when they think about coaching is I say, did you notice that everybody that won a gold medal in the Olympics had a bench full of coaches, right? Because there's 2 types of athletes. There's the athletes, there's 3 types of athletes. There's athletes that don't know what they're doing. They're just learning the skill, so they get a coach. There's athletes that have mastered that level of coaching and think they don't need a coach. And then there's gold medalists who hire loads of coaches because they want to scale. You don't have to win. You don't have to get gold medals. That's not a requirement in life. Your life will be just fine if you never win a gold medal. But if you're the type of person that says, no, I want to go conquer this domain, I want to win the gold medal, coaches, man, that's the key.
Yeah. I think the key difference between, I think coaching in my mind, I'm like, I'm not a coach. I don't ever want to be a coach. Like, never say never, right? There's definitely overlap, and there's definitely opportunity for me to coach clients through specific things that I'm an expert at. But I think the main difference between On the Ball being a coaching firm versus a consulting firm is the implementation side of it. So I stand up in a lot of networking meetings locally, and a lot of times people say, oh, so you're a coach? And I'm like, no. But when you start talking about strategic planning and you start thinking about like looking ahead to the future to make sure things are scalable, coaching really comes into play a lot of times. The difference is that On the Ball's right there with you, implementing the changes that we're recommending. And we're there with you along the way to problem solve when the changes don't work the way that we thought they would. Whereas I feel like a coach is helping you with the plan and they're helping you with the mindset, but they're not necessarily helping you with the implementation side.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I like about On the Ball is that it's a practical execution of the coaching service. Like, this is what we want to do. Because in coaching, what I find a lot of times is that it's very lonely at the top, right? It's very lonely to try to run an organization. You don't have people to talk to. You look at your number 2, your number 3, you might have 10 or 15 folks, but nobody in that company can you tell you're nervous about. You're like, I don't know what we're going to do about payroll 2 months from now. We just lost a major client. This client went bankrupt. I'm going to buy this new barn or this new facility. Is that a good plan? You don't have anybody in your organization you can talk that through. And I have a wife who is amazing, but she is not the person I can talk those questions through with.
Right. Exactly.
So having somebody like On the Ball or another coach who can help you think through that stuff is a real godsend. It's really a lot of weight off your shoulders because you can talk through that from an intelligent business strategy perspective, not just go for it. You're going to be amazing. Like, no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you think buying a new warehouse is a strategically sound move? It's completely different. Yeah.
And I think On the Ball, I was going to talk about it in a third person, but I actually had kind of an epiphany last summer that I was kind of qualified to offer this strategic thought partnership. Like you're referring to it as like a coaching mechanism. And to me, it's not coaching. I just am averse to that word for some reason. But I'm already doing the work of strategic thought in those
100%.
very first meetings where I'm like giving you ideas and telling you what I think will move your business forward. But then all along the way, I'm having these weekly, monthly conversations with clients, and they're coming to me asking me these questions. And it was kind of one of those times where I became the expert without realizing I was the expert. I don't know if you have like a quippy phrase for that, but the business coach said to me, like, you're already doing this work. And it took me months to like really believe that I was doing it, to believe that I could say this is what I was doing. But now I see it everywhere. Like, oh, look, I'm doing strategic thought again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually call that purpose. We come from a Western culture, right? So we think linearly and we think geometrically. Western cultures, which is like the Middle East and like everything west of that, or east of that, sorry. Eastern cultures come at it from they look at the history and they say, what did I do well that seemed almost effortless for me? Like, what in my history, what evidence do I have that shows me I'm good at this? And then you look at that and you're like, I guess I must be good at this. And I think that you are hitting that. I think it's Ichigawa. Like, I think you're hitting that purpose work and what others want from you kind of triad. So I'll just go ahead and say, I think, you're already an amazing coach. And I'm excited to see you step into that more and more. Well, it is at 36 minutes here. We are running out of time in the show. I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds for you just to clear up anything or to say anything to the audience that you wanted to say. And then I'll close us out.
I don't know. If you're a business owner, an entrepreneur that's listening, and anything that I said kind of sparked your interest, I'm always up for a conversation. I do free consultations, and of course my free streamlining session is always available on my website. And there's no pressure, no long-term agreement, just to sit down and talk and get a couple of ideas to get started that day. And then, of course, if you'd love us to implement, we would love to help you get on the ball.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to put a little more edge to that. Listen, you need Amanda. If you have a business, you have 10 to 15 employees, and you're like, man, I'm tired of missing my kid's soccer game. I'm tired of working these 80-hour weeks. I'm ready to find that magic 15 hours that I don't have to pay Amanda for. It's just 15 hours I get every week, the reoccurring 15 hours. Call Amanda. Tell her you heard her on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show and get your life back. So with that, we are out.